Welcome to the Develop Yourself podcast, where we teach you everything you need to land your first job as a software developer by learning to develop yourself, your skills, your network, and more. I'm Brian, your host. This is going to be one of those episodes that's really short, that is probably also one of the most important ones that I've done in a long time, because this particular episode should help you beat my most hated interview, the dreaded take-home interview. And I know some of you are listening like, oh, I love take-home interviews. They're so much better than the whiteboard interviews or going into an office or doing some sort of code challenge in front of somebody. Think about this, my friend. Would you rather spend 1 hour bumbling through some code with somebody on a Zoom, or 8 hours on the weekend building this silly take-home assignment that's supposed to only take 2 hours? But let's be honest, no one ever takes 2 hours to build these things. They require a full day. Now you're using ChatGPT and other sources, and you're reading through documentation, and you're figuring out how AWS works or whatever. And then you turn it in, you get zero feedback. They say, oh, so sorry, we're going to move on to the next person, but thank you for your contribution. At worst, these can actually be illegal. I've seen companies, organizations, I've heard horror stories, and I've seen some firsthand, of people using these take-home assignments to literally use within their code base to find a way to solve a problem that they haven't figured out, basically open sourcing the problem in the guise of an interview and having us dumb saps out there actually go for it, make a working solution, give it to them, and then they use it without actually ever wanting to hire us in the first place. Now, this is very unlikely. This is highly unlikely, but there are bad people out in the world, and, they exist. So bad things happen, right? No big surprise there. But the thing I really don't like about these is there's so few tutorials or guidance on how to actually beat these. When I mean beat, I mean, how do you get past this dumb take-home interview to actually get to the interview? I don't like asking people to do a bunch of work for free. I do know that most junior developers, if you're early in your career, it's really hard to avoid these. I tend to just say, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't have the time. And I prefer not to. And if it's the only way I can get to the interview, if I really want to be in this company, maybe I'll consider it. And if not, then I'm probably not going to consider it and just move on to the next. I know that is not everybody's situation. I've helped out dozens of people over the years to beat these types of interviews. And it's actually really simple. We're going to go through 3 different things that you need to do to beat the take-home interview. The take-home interview, for those of you who are not aware, I probably should have started with this, right? The take-home interview is when a company says, hey, we are considering interviewing you, but before we do that, we'd like you to take a challenge, right? We're going to send you a request to build a feature. Something like you're going to build a small app. In fact, me and Zubin do this at Parsity, where we give people a small app to build depending on their, technical expertise. So for example, a lot of people come from boot camps and say, cool, let's actually try to assess how well you know coding by giving you this challenge. And that challenge will give us an indication of what we need to build out for them as far as curriculum is concerned. Same idea with these take-home interviews. They say, hey, build this full stack app, and it does X, Y, and Z. And it's kind of open-ended on purpose. And say, great, you have a week to finish it. It should only take 2 hours, or it should only take 4 hours. It takes you 16 hours, right? And you do this on the weekend, you turn it in, and you hope that you get moved on to the next piece. I've seen too many people take these and not get any feedback. I've seen too many people do them and not know how to do them correctly. And it ends up being not just a waste of time, but also demoralizing, because then they got no feedback. And then they just feel like, damn, I just wasted all this time for free. How many times can I do this? Right? You don't want to do these kinds of assignments too many times. They just take up way too much time. So one mentee who got hired at Calendly, which is a pretty cool company, I remember the advice I told him helped him get there. They actually mentioned the advice that I'm about to share with you when they decided to move forward with him. Same thing for another mentee. Another person recently hit me up and said, hey man, thanks for giving me that advice. It actually got me past that take-home interview. I'm like, I'm shocked this still works, but I'm really happy. So let's get right to it. I've talked around it enough. I'm going to stop dancing around the subject. Here's what you do. 1, you write some tests. Can you believe that out of all the take-home assignments that I've seen done, that very, very few people ever write a unit test? And if you're saying, well, I don't know how to write unit tests, I got you. Because I like you, and you're probably good looking if you listen to this show. I know that good looking people tend to listen to this show. I have in the show notes some material that will help you learn how to write unit tests. It's just free. You don't have to give me anything for it. Just take it. Use it. Please, for the love of God, use it, because software should be tested. And if you went to a boot camp that didn't show you how to do unit testing, well, then you probably should have gone to Parsity. But too late for you. Or maybe you're learning on your own and you don't know how to write tests. Learn how to write tests. It's not that hard. Honestly, with ChatGPT nowadays, it's super simple to write some tests. Super simple with React or Node or Express or Python or Rust or whatever you're using. I guarantee you it won't take you that long to write some tests. Think of some scenarios that should be tested. Write some tests for them. At least have one or two, not trivial tests, but tests that test some functionality that should or could not break, right? So maybe you're building an e-commerce clone. What's a really important thing to test in an e-commerce app? Well, maybe that a person can add something to the cart. Maybe it's that the total is incremented correctly and makes mathematical sense. Maybe you're building something that uploads pictures or something like that. Maybe you want to make sure that people can't upload pictures that are really, really large. You should think about these things. What are the guardrails that need to be in place for this app? That's a really sophisticated way of thinking beyond just, I need to get this done. It's like, well, yeah, it's done, but how can it be safer? So having some tests will immediately make you stand out above 90% or more of people that do these take-home assignments. I mean, maybe not now, depending on how many people listen to this show. Perhaps it'll go up dramatically. Newsflash, it won't. So don't worry. Trust me, people just don't write tests for whatever reason. Okay, second thing you need to do. That is the hardest thing, by the way. The tests are definitely the most time-consuming piece of these three pieces of advice. The next piece is write some documentation. This is simple, especially with ChatGPT nowadays. Write some documentation. Not just what it does, but how to run it, different libraries you've used, and gotchas. It should explain what and why. Really simple. Documentation doesn't need to be overthought and be really beautiful. It's great if it looks visually appealing, but what it should really explain is like, what is this thing? What does it do? Why does it exist? And how do I get it to work? Right? And any gotchas. Like, oh yeah, you need to have a URL connection string to a database. And obviously I'm not going to share mine with you. So you need to use this fake database, or this is an issue that I saw that comes up sometimes. If you're in, an Eastern time zone, you may get a different thing or whatever, some weird bug or issue that you found that you're like, I didn't have time to correct this, but I'm just letting you know that it's here. And here's like some documentation explaining a workaround or something like that. It's really simple. What and why? Why does this work? What does it do? How do I run it? All that good stuff. And then somebody should be able to look at it and immediately say, okay, cool. I went from not knowing what this is at all to knowing how to run this on my machine. Very simple. Lastly, here is a bonus. Record a video of you walking through the functionality. Make it really, really short, like 2 minutes tops. People don't want to watch a 10-minute video of you walking through an app. People barely will watch a 2-minute video on YouTube. It's wild how much we cannot pay attention. So instead of doing some long, drawn-out video, do a video. I suggest you use Loom. The reason why I suggest you use Loom, I'm not sponsored, by the way, even though I should be. Loom, if you're listening to me, you can send me a check or a box of donuts to my address, which I'll give you out in private if you DM me. Anyway, why you should use Loom, in my opinion, is because they have analytics. And I use a paid version of Loom. I'm not sure if this is free. I use a paid version, $20 or something a month, and I record a ton of videos. And what I like about the videos is I get an alert via Slack. I have an integration in Slack that lets me know when somebody has viewed my video. It lets me know the duration. It lets me know sometimes who, if they have a Loom account. So this way I can see if somebody actually did watch the video, where they may have dropped off, if they watched the whole thing, and maybe even some information I can use to contact them. Now, I don't know how ethical that is, but I'll be honest with you. I'm using everything to my advantage, right? If I see that somebody on that team and I see their email or something attached to it or their name, I'm going to want to reach out to that person. Hey, I saw you looked at my video. I'm really interested and curious. I'm really interested and excited about joining this company. And I'm really hoping that you found some value in my take-home project. Is there anything I can help explain, or is there anything you'd like me to dive deeper into? Happy to chat with it if you have the time. If not, thank you so much for checking it out. I know it can take a lot of time to review this code. Hopefully the video was somewhat helpful. Boom. This will make you stand out tremendously. It'll give you the most bang for your buck. If you're going to do these, do them 110%. Don't do them 50% because that way you're wasting tons of time and not getting the return on investment that you deserve, right? And if you can, straight up, try to not do these things. They boil my potato. I really tell you, I cannot tell you how much I hate take-home projects. And I know I'm in the minority because apparently most people love them. So I hope this was helpful for you. If you're interested in joining Parsity and hopefully not doing a bunch of take-home challenges to get a job, or at least doing well on them and learning unit testing and all the things you need to know in order to really crush it, join us at Parsity. You know where to find the stuff. It's in the show notes. See you around and take that unit testing stuff also there. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you get a kick out of it. And see you around. That'll do it for today's episode of the Develop Yourself podcast. If you're serious about switching careers and becoming a software developer and building complex software and want to work directly with me and my team, go to parsity.io. And if you want more information, feel free to schedule a chat by just clicking the link in the show notes. See you next week.